While this episode is going to be in the far-flung future where there's only war, some cool stuff is happening IRL in terms of tech and game announcements.
Over the break, we had the Xbox Showcase, which featured a lot of content. What was your biggest takeaway from the Xbox Games Showcase, Andrew?
I will say that there's some cool stuff that happened at the Xbox Games Showcase. We're just going to call it the Showcase from now. That's too long of a title. But there's definitely some stuff that didn't show up that I expected to show up. So we can kind of go back and forth. We can pickleball it a little bit. Outer Worlds 2 looks really fun. Enough fun to where I should probably figure out the first one and play that. So if you guys have listened to this episode, let me know if Outer Worlds is a good game and whether or not I should play it. Another sequel that is coming out as well, I think from the same studio, I think both of these are coming from Obsidian Entertainment, is Grounded 2. The first one was a really fun survivor game, or if you're me, it was a horror game if you're an arachnophobe.
Honestly, I was surprised about just the extra DLC that we're getting. We had 3 games on here that are already current titles. Fallout 76, Sea of Thieves, and The Elder Scrolls Online, with no indication that these are new games.
4, the Indiana Jones is also getting DLC that I know of.
Oh, so 4. That felt bad. And without being crude, I will just say it feels bad. I was not excited that they had so much just DLC. In this, it really felt like they were trying to pad their stats.
Yeah, if you were to grade this showcase, what would you give it in a rating of 10?
C-. Oh, sorry, a rating out of 10.
What are you doing?
To make that letter grade make sense, a 72. You fool! What have you done?
Oh, gosh. Honestly, I would give this an even 50%. There's some stuff on here that I know is not really for me. Things like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Is that a remake? I don't know.
Is that Tony Hawk?
I know that's not for me. I'm not interested in those games. I don't really like fighter games either. So Invincible Versus or Ninja Gaiden, I'm like, I don't really care. Some of the newer stuff I am interested in. Outer Worlds 2, like I mentioned, Grounded 2. I think Gears of War Reloaded is cool, but I don't see that as a game reveal. It's literally just a remastered version of Gears of War 1 that's also going to release on the PlayStation. This is good because it's another landmark example of, I would say, a positive move in gaming where exclusives are becoming non-exclusives. That is good for everyone. For the people on our patron Discord, if you guys want to play through Gears of War 1 and you've never had access to an Xbox, let's freaking go, dude. Let's freaking go. Let's go, dude. Let's do it.
So for the same reason, I actually gave this a higher score, because this isn't my cup of tea. This is going to be exciting for other people way more than it's going to be exciting for me. Again, my highlight from this entire thing was Gears Reloaded. And then I looked into it and I said, this is a remake. And then I swore to myself, I'm excited that it's going to be out on PlayStation. I think that's a really big step. But other than that, I'm like, this is lackluster. But again, this is not for me. These are games that other people will be enjoying, not me.
Were there any games on here that you wish would have been?
Ooh, that's a tough one. A Star Wars title would have been nice. I would be excited for a Star Wars title. But honestly, last time we got a Star Wars title was Star Wars Outlaws. And I can tell you right now, I have not played too much of it. But that's also because of my current circumstance. I've barely played any Space Marine, and I love Space Marine.
I will say Star Wars Outlaws did make some quality of life changes that did make it a lot more fun. I really liked Star Wars Outlaws. I should say I thought it was fine. I thought it was a good game. I wouldn't say it's a great game. One thing I do want to note, however, is that there was no Halo reveal. There was no Gears of War E-Day reveal, and there was no Fable reveal. These were... Who is messaging me?
That's not me. I'm so sorry. I swear it's not me. Who the frick? Keep sending messages on Discord. It's like when I accidentally post a video of like me going through a live replay and the Discord notification gets caught on the replay, and I'll open up my Discord and like, where is that notification coming from?
Yeah, where's that coming from?
I'm being harassed.
I went to my Discord and my mouth is watering and I can't figure out what's going on.
The game of Pavlov's bell.
Is that you, Papa Pavlov? There were some things on here that I actually really enjoyed. The FBC Firebreak, it is in the world of the control games, which is in like the, Secure, Contain, Protect, the SCP genre. I think those types of stories are really cool. If you guys haven't seen the fan film SCP Overlord, it is spooky AF. It's really, really cool. I loved it. This is a co-op shooter, although it's only up to 3 players. I don't understand. I have more than 2 friends, and being a twin brother, it's like I have more than one other friend. Like, it's like, give me some credit. Like, Gears 5 was a 5-man squad. That was great because you could still play, and you could still play on Master with a 4-person team if you were good enough. If you wanted to, you could sub in a 5th guy. Usually you just kind of like, it's like, okay, if they suck, just let them let the wolves have them. It's like, hey, I'm not going to risk my neck to save you, sort of thing. Because if I jump out of cover, I'm just going to immediately die because it's the hardest difficulty. But like 3 people, I'm like, come on, this is the Space Marine thing all over again. It's like, give me some credit. I have more friends than that. It's rude. It's really frickin' rude.
So rude.
And I say frickin' so I don't have to bleep myself. What did you think of the Black Ops reveal?
Not interested.
Who cares? 7? Oh my gosh, these are such mid games. I
still haven't even beat the last one. It's on. I played like one mission and I was like, hey, I'll get to this eventually, and have not.
Dude, it's like what? It's going to be the exact same thing over again. They're not going to bring anything new. They haven't brought anything new for decades into Call of Duty. It's boring. I don't want to play it. And especially, it's like, what is this one going to be? A full terabyte download? Call of Duty is a virus. It takes up so much space.
It's so bad. My last one was like over 120 gigs or something. A whole 1/8 of a terabyte.
So now that we're over 9 minutes into our episode, we should probably start our episode.
Let's do this.
Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
And we are twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and give colorful commentary on our favorite subjects. Welcome to our cantina, grab a drink, and settle in as we set course for realities beyond our own.
Guys, if you want to check out all the happenings over on Patreon, make sure you guys follow us so you guys can catch up on that. Angela, I realized right off the bat that we've made a huge blunder, and we are doing episode 117 on not a Halo topic.
Do we have to like delete our YouTube channel now, or like?
So Nathan said some problematic things that Andrew will hopefully put a technical difficulty screen over. Guys, today's recording date is June 11th, and this episode will be released on June 16th. This week, we've got Warhammer on the Hive Mind.
I like what you did there. It took me a second, and I was like, what did he say?
Oh, it's my turn to read. I don't know what these green colors mean.
What does that mean? Well, you said on the hive mind, and I was like, I don't get it. Dude, I am fried from work. Thanks, everyone, for sticking with us as we took a break from podcasting these last couple of weeks. We put out a bunch of shorts, thanks to Nathan, not me, on our socials, but we just needed some air from writing, recording, and editing. That's really what takes the bulk of time in this episode, so thank you for supporting us. Since we have been on a Star Wars kick for so long, we'd share with you our latest Warhammer game that we think you will like. Both of us tend to play Warhammer casually, and we'll share this hobby with our local friends. 40K Tabletop has a lot of logistical issues when it comes to assembling your army, finding a location to play, and then also safely transporting that army, and hopefully having fun at the end of the day. So, let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so last weekend we got together for a pretty huge game of Warhammer. We ended up doing 2v2. It was an 8,000 point game, so 4,000 points on each side. and we ended up playing out of the Pariah Nexus mission pack, specifically Linchpin, with the secondary objective to raise banners. And then both teams ended up picking tactical objectives, which is where you draw additional secondary objectives at the start of your turn. And then if you have extras that you don't complete, you can discard for a single command point. So we did that a lot.
I thought this was very fun. I usually don't run tactical objectives, but I very much enjoyed it. We ran with a Dawn of War deployment, which honestly did one of us very well. Starting out the gate, this really favored my team because I played with orcs with my friend who was playing Tyranids. Andrew, who are you playing with?
I was playing as Chaos Knights, and I was allied with Necrons.
So it was a lot of elite versus a huge horde army. Now, we had close to 150 models on our side of the board with almost nothing in reserve at the end of the deployment phase. It was pretty crazy. This was a standard play space, but we deployed upon the long edge of the tables. Things were tight. We did end up randomizing the teams to start, so we basically, I think, what did we do? We did 2 highest with 2 lowest on the D20.
Yep, that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, nailed it. And it just happened to be orcs and nids versus necrons and knights.
It certainly would have gone a different direction, I think, if the teams were different, with one elite and one horde, also known as Elorde, because I don't know how to talk.
Talking's overrated. Honestly, I would have loved to screen your knights. I think that would have been really fun.
You probably would have done really well, because I rolled very poorly. Nathan, what detachment did you take?
I ran the Mordaka detachment. I ran with a ton of boys. I think I had close to maybe like 60 boys on the field, running with one blob of 20 Shudas with a war boss attached to it. Super fun. Then I basically ran the rest of my army. The problem is I don't have enough models to properly play the other orc detachments.
Yeah, and that is kind of a problem with horde armies, is you have a lot of models, and each one of those models is worth relatively few points, so you end up spending probably on average more than someone like Custodians or Knights would, because it's like I only have to buy 2 boxes, and a horde army like orcs or Tyranids have to buy box after box after box.
Which we have some creative solutions for that we'll talk about later in the episode. On your side of the field, you ran with one of our friends that was running Necrons, the Canoptech Court. The main army featured a lot of Wraiths, multiple Doomstalkers, 2 Satan, and some ranged units.
Yeah, guys, hit us up in the comments. Is it Satan or Catan? Because I do not know. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm going to talk about my army now. I ran Chaos Knights. I really like big stompy robots. I am really excited for the Gundam movie. I thought Pacific Rim was awesome. And
so cool.
And I've been pretty thrilled with all of the Godzilla installments, excepting the newest one. I thought that one was kind of garbo. Did you like my moderation?
How dare you?
I am going to bleep the burp, but I'm going to keep it in so people know what happened. So I had a relatively small army as far as models go, but what I was running is the big guys. I was running a Cerastus Castigator. I actually got this by trading in a bunch of my Space Marines because I kept losing with Space Marines and I just wasn't having fun with them. So most of my Space Marines that I have left over are Dreadnoughts because, again, I like big stompy robots. I think that's fun. And then I flanked them with 2 Knight Desecrators. One of them was a proxy. It's a cybernetic T-Rex that I got off of Etsy. It's gorgeous. I love it. And the other is a true Desecrator, and I magnetized all the arms, so if I want to run a different Abominant-style Knight, I can.
Very cool.
Arrayed against me, though, was High Fleet Leviathan, so the Tyranids, running the Invasion Fleet detachment. They tore me to pieces. Oh my gosh. I ran into an issue where my opponent basically had me cornered before I could even do anything about it. I only had 6 models to deploy. That being said, he kept his Tyrannifex, which is an incredibly powerful, shooty Tyranid, basically until he could see where all of my knights were lined up. And knights are so large that you can only hide them behind certain buildings. So given the information that I had, I hid my knights as best I could based on the available information, but he just waited me out. He was like, oh, I'm going to put out some gaunts. All right, more gaunts. All right, more gaunts. And it was like, okay, I have no idea where he's going to put that Tyrannifex. And he had enough models to where as soon as I put down my Cerastus Castigator, he's like, all right, I know where I'm going to put this so I can get line of sight. Like, we have the sweet laser line pointers. And he almost killed it turn 1. I would have been so sad. I was already a little salty because I was rolling poorly. My stuff was getting mortally wounded. But if he had shot it off, I wouldn't say I would have cried, but I would have been pretty upset. It's like,
Can
oh
confirm.
man. It's like we planned this for so long and I'm done before we even started. Also, an 8,000 point game takes like an hour to set up. Warhammer is not for the faint of heart. Warhammer Tabletop is not for the faint of heart, I should say.
I will say that we do have some improvements that could probably happen as far as our team that usually plays together, as far as like efficiency goes. Because like I play an orc army. I'm like, there are certain models I know that need to go on certain parts of the board. Other than that, I'm literally just trying to fit my models on the board.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of the guys in our group, he actually plays like a lot in tournaments and he has his army memorized. That is not an advantage that I have. I'm like, all right, I have forgotten what this is. There were definitely certain points where I was rolling in advance based off of like, oh, I know this has 3 attacks. I know this has 8. I know this has 18. And I set out specific amounts of dice for those attacks, which helped a lot. I wasn't like taking and sorting dice. I basically was just like, all right, pick this pile up and roll it. Pick this pile up and roll it. And that's really helpful. But still, the game can only go so fast when there's, what was it, 4 dozen units on the field?
There was quite a few.
Remember, for those people who are listening, we're not using units and models interchangeably. A unit is is essentially shorthand for squad, and models are the actual plastic pieces that make up that unit, just to clarify.
Units are made of models, and an army is made of units.
Yeah, not confusing at all.
It goes brigade, detachment. I'm just kidding. I didn't even say that in the right order anyway, so it's cool. It's fine. It's whatever.
That is like the hallmark of 40K, is it is not an efficient game. Even from 9th edition to 10th edition, where the game has been made a lot more efficient and a lot easier to understand, it's still not an easy game. I think the total length of our game was 6 hours. And at this point, you guys are probably thinking, why would I ever get into 40K tabletop? Maybe don't. It's a lot.
Because it's fun.
Yeah, and it's like, if that's what you enjoy, it is definitely more of a hardcore board game style format. You got to be into it. Because there are certain games that have shorter time limits or aren't like racking your brain as far as like strategic input. Like if you're playing Uno, great game. I love Uno. It doesn't take the same amount of strategy as 40K. Like we're just trying to be realistic.
Speak for yourself. I'm an Uno Grandmaster.
Shut up.
It was a good time.
I will say, my Tyrannid opponent, he has one of the coolest proxies I've ever seen, which is going to lead us into our next question. But he has a proxy Swarm Lord, and it is a 3D printed Kerrigan from StarCraft 2. It's the Queen of Blades as the Swarm Lord. So cool. So flippin' cool. I love it so much. I love coffee. A lot. That's why we have decided to partner with Javi as our first advertiser. Javi is a series of coffee products, including coffee concentrate, which we have personally both tasted and enjoyed. I find simple comfort in the original coffee concentrate that I mix with almond milk and brown sugar to make a rich iced tea that feels perfect for the spring and summer weather. The mocha concentrate is an easy recommendation, as coffee and chocolate are the perfect pair. These small bottles are good for dozens of servings, or if you're a real caffeine fiend, less. Mix it hot or cold. Either works if you're looking for a quick and delicious way to keep that sweet bean dream marching forward. Shoppers who use our link in the description get a discount on their order and directly supports this podcast. You must use the link. Elevate your coffee today with Javi. Follow the link on screen and in the description and ride that dopamine train straight to Beantown. Can we say that? Yeah, of course we can. That's code TALKABOUT-T97755. Or follow the link on screen or in the description. Now, back to the show. But that brings us to our first discussion question, really our second if you count the cold open, is what is your opinion on proxies? Nathan, go ahead.
I was literally looking at Etsy proxies earlier today. So
dude, Etsy's a gold mine.
So I love proxies. As somebody who cannot afford to field a full 40k army right now of 2,000 points, proxies save my life. And I don't want to spend $60 on a boy squad. That's just straight up. I don't want to spend $80 on a new Def Dread. I don't want to, I want to support these other businesses because you guys have to know that Games Workshop is printing money when they make models. Literally, it is plastic injected money that they are printing.
Yeah, my notes as far as GW, I just wrote GW can fuck the duck because you're right. They are printing money. Miniatures cost pennies on the dollar to make. And the fact that something like a boy squad, because you're paying for the amount of plastic, not necessarily how good that model is on the tabletop. So 10 boys is the same cost as 10 Terminators, but Terminators are not going to lose to boys ever. They cost more points, they're tougher, they have more wounds, and they shoot better. But they're the same cost. So it's almost pay to win, but in a really dumb way.
Well, so a squad of boys comes with 10 or 9 boys on a knob. A squad of Terminators comes with 4 or 5 Terminators. They're the same roughish cost.
A boxes of 5 now. You're right.
But
it used to be boxes of 10.
But that boy squad is probably never going to win against those Terminators.
You're right. 5 Terminators could take 10 boys, I think, really easy. Especially if the Terminators got to shoot. It's going to be no contest. It's only going to come close if it's melee only, and the orcs are charging and they're in their wah. Other than that, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, the spore-laden stars need to align for those orcs to win. So, honestly, though, I think the only thing I don't like about proxies right now is I actually think there is a limited amount of proxies available on the market. I wish there were more. I would like to start making some and selling them on Etsy, because right now you can get Imperial Guard, you can get Orcs, you can get some Space Marines, and you can get, what's the word I want to say here? Bodacious Tau models.
Absolutely not. Someone get the bonk hammer right now.
No, I'm not saying I'm going to buy them. No, seriously though, I'm not saying I want to play Tau, but every time I search for Tau proxies, I'm and there are tits on my screen now.
Yeah, you can't search for Tau proxies on a work computer. It's
Why
a
do
problem.
I keep getting flagged by the NSA? I'm only using a government computer to look at Tau titties.
Do I have to bleep titties? No, I'm not going to. Respectfully.
Let's go. Respectfully, of course.
Respectfully. So some stipulations that I have with proxies. I'm very pro proxy. The market for minis is out of control as far as the actual Games Workshop stock. They're too expensive. They're pricing people out of their game, and it's to the point where I'm you guys didn't need to raise your prices. They did that because they're greedy. That is the reason most people raise their prices on anything. It is literally how capitalism is intended to function, is just raise your prices, especially if you have a captive audience. And that's what Warhammer can be for people who want to play games and want to pick their armies, because freaking Games Workshop keeps changing the rules all the time. The big ass rule book that I bought for 10th edition is not current anymore. and that feels bad. It was expensive. It's huge. And they constantly do that. The second you buy a brand new codex, the next day they will have updated rules and points, and you have already bought something that is in print and it's out of date. And sure, you can buy the digital copy, but I wanted the book. That's why I bought the book. So it doesn't help me at all if these point values are not the same. So again, GW, I hate them as a company. I like their product, unfortunately. It tickles my brain in a weird way, and it feels good, and I like Warhammer.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it on the head.
Some stipulations for proxies themselves, though. No stickies on magic cards. Or no sticky notes for magic cards. People who, I think if you're going to create a proxy for a game like Magic, as an example, like make sure that if you're using card sleeves, you use like a very thin piece of paper, and don't just give yourself the bit like 10 planeswalkers. Like that can be not fun very quick because Magic is very much a pay to win game. So like don't do something that's going to be that's either going to look like garbage or is going to give you an unfair advantage. Like, you know, we can kind of imagine, like if I had just 3D printed, be like, oh, I'm running a Warlord Titan, and it's going to be proxied by this chapstick. Like, no, that doesn't fly.
Sir, you're going to need like 87 more chapsticks.
Yeah, it's like if you can somehow putty together 80 more chapsticks, maybe we can use it. But other than that, like it has to be an approximate size for the thing you're proxying if we're talking Warhammer.
Agreed. I think the size and representation needs to be there. Like if I'm running proxies for boys with shootas, it needs to be boys with shootas. Like the orc proxies I have orc boys, orc shooter boys, orc ludas, and a deaf dread all proxied, and my kill tank is proxy too.
Did you mention your weird boy?
I have a weird boy proxy as well. Yep. So I have a lot of proxies in my army, and thankfully you guys are all cool about it. You guys are also cool about the fact that I don't have all my models painted, but that's all right.
We're actually not cool about it. We just talk behind your back. I'm kidding. Gosh.
I'm going to say so many things that are problematic and make you have to edit it all out. No, I'm just kidding. Brother, let's hop into turn 1. What happened in turn 1?
It did not go well. Like I mentioned before and I alluded to, the Nids, who are not a shooting army, almost shot my Cerastus Knight off the board. He was over 500 points. Also, they changed all the point values literally the day after we played. Fun.
It was so brutal.
It's like...
You'll see it in our short about HoloNet news, guys.
Really rude. And so, like, my Cerastus Knight took a bunch of wounds. Chaos Knights are not tough. They have only a 5-up invulnerable save to ranged attacks only, and their toughness is relatively low for how large and how few wounds they have. They're not great. They have one stratagem to help that, but I think I actually used it, and I still spiked all my saves. It didn't feel good. It literally bracketed me turn 1. I think I was down to like 4 wounds. So I'm immediately worse at shooting. I have a lower OC value. It's not going well. Like I said, Nids placed first and went first, allowing for a first strike on my Warlord, and that really, really hurt me. I basically spent the rest of the game on a revenge mission trying to kill that Tyrannifex and wasn't able to do it. I just kept missing. Sorry, I bumped my mic. I just kept missing. I couldn't hit it. And at this point, I was like, the dice are telling a story, and the story is not in my favor. We'll say
the story is that the knights are not the main character of this book.
And if I'm going to be totally honest and just try to show at least an ounce of humility, I was getting pretty pissed off. It is hard to enjoy a game that you spend almost an hour and a half setting up and then almost lose before you get a turn. I don't like the rules for 40k. Can I say that? I don't like the 40k rules. I think they're stupid and they don't make sense.
That's why they're constantly changing them. And they should probably playtest some of more of those. I mean, I felt kind of good about some of my orc kill tank stuff. I got some lucky hits on some of your other models, honestly dealing some like 6 wounds on some of your big models as well, which felt really good. And it survived
in the shooting phase, no
in
less.
the shooting phase, which felt really, really good, which survived into round 4. I was using the Legends datasheet for you guys, by the way. I pulled it off Wahapedia. The kill tank does not have an invuln save, but it does have 24 wounds, which is nice. So, but that also meant like my kill tank was kind of running at the same number of wounds as some of your knights, but for only like 295 points, I think.
Yeah, before the latest codex, knights were too expensive. And even GW agreed because they lowered the cost of all the knights. Significantly, I might add. Enough to where I would have been able to field another full-size knight and potentially another war dog.
That would have been honestly really cool for you. I honestly really enjoyed how much my kill tank was a huge nuisance for you guys, but it is one of those models because it's such a huge proxy, because it's made from an old M1 Abrams tank model, that I'm actually excited to not play with it anymore and just have it be a showpiece, because it's too big. It's too big.
Cool.
It's cool,
it's cool though.
But it's too big. I really enjoyed walleying turn 1 and just clogging the center of the field. I gummed up the Necrons so bad that none of his... I mean, he was slaughtering my troops like crazy, but I had so many on the board that I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, you just killed 7 boys? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Oh, you killed 3 trucks? Doesn't matter.
Whereas if I lose a single unit, I'm like, I might not win this game. Can you explain for our viewers real quick, what is a WA?
A wah is a loud ululation that you must scream at the beginning of that turn. Either your opponent's or yours, but it has to be at the top of turn 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. That gives your orcs bonuses for that turn. And since I was running the more DACA, it gave me some sustained hits, 5-up invuln save, things like that during my turn. And I could advance, move, and charge all in the same turn. So I advance everybody. I rolled like 3 6s on my advances. So I'm moving
insane,
like 18 inches up the boards with my like trucks. I'm moving just so far up with some of my elites. I mean, I literally almost got into your deployment zone turn 1. It was insane.
We did not recover from that either. It was a very good wah. For those of you who are wondering, you're like, I don't really know what word they're saying. Wah is war in a British, Cockney accent, I think is what it is, because the orcs have a British accent, canonically.
I'm not sure what the orcs are supposed to have, because it's a specific type of British accent, and if I make an assumption, I'm sure the 1 or 2 Brits that listen to us would be like, I can't believe they called that a Cockney accent. That's a terrible British accent I just did. But it's like, I don't know.
I think it's quite different.
Can you spot some biscuits and tea for that horrible assumption you just made?
Terrible. God save the Queen and whatnot.
I can't do a British accent without it turning into Australian. But, yeah, we clogged the center of the board pretty good.
Like I said, we never recovered from that. This was critical, and I think it actually lost us the game because you guys essentially sat on the objectives, and we didn't score. We couldn't score. And we ended up calling the game at turn 4, at the start of turn 4. One, because I was like, I have basically out of units. So at this point, there was one point in the game where all of my shooting was done, and there was so much stuff left to happen on the board that I just went inside because we were playing in your garage because it was a nice day. I literally just went inside and laid down, and I almost fell asleep.
I would have felt really bad if you fell asleep.
Because it was like there was nothing for me to do. Which also doesn't feel good. There was kind of a lot of things that I was like, this doesn't really feel good. And I kind of like lamented to my wife later. I was like, I really didn't enjoy the game. I enjoyed the company. I enjoyed the food. The food was phenomenal, dude. We had steak tacos. Oh my gosh. It was so good. And I legitimately really like hanging out with our little group. We always have so much fun. Everyone is great sports. But I felt like I was just desperately trying to hold on to the shred of good sportsmanship I had left because I was just like, I am getting boned. I was like, this is really difficult. And it really just got under my skin a little bit of just like, I was just so, because I rolled so many ones. I should have been able to kill your tank, statistically speaking, because I walked up to him with a brigand and a knight desecrator, and I just rolled ones across the board. I just didn't even hit anything. I was within Melta range. I was like, dude, I'm going to smoke this guy. And then I hit nothing, and I was like, okay, that's going to be a problem, because now he's going to fire back.
Yeah, it was not good.
Oh, man. I will say, like, it was probably like turn 2, my knights really started dying, and I think 2 of them exploded.
We had a lot of explosions on the field, and it was fantastic. I think really one thing that, like, I think if you guys had gone turn 1, you would have been able to screen the middle objectives a little bit better with, like, wraiths and other, like, with wraiths and other units, and be able to take out key targets with your knights, your canoptep stalkers, and some of those heavy destroyers that were on the field. But, like, again, like, a lot of ones got rolled, and we went first. Like, again, it was all based on a dice roll.
No knights died turn 1, and this actually gave me a lot of hope, because I was like, oh, I still get to play the game. This is great. And then I rolled a lot of ones. Like we said, dice tell stories, and the story was, and then I got punched in the balls.
He's right. No notes.
I'm going to have a lot of fun finding a clip of somebody just getting just destroyed.
Types in,
okay, so
man gets destroyed in testicles.
Testicular devastation. Okay, army performance. I've kind of hounded on this a lot, but I rolled really bad, and that was super frustrating. I took 2 Knight Desecrators because I wanted to be able to shoot the big things off the table and really thin out a lot of the large threats. And then I just missed everything. I wasn't able to kill the Tyrannifex. I wasn't able to kill either of the Hive Tyrants. I wasn't able to kill your tank. I don't even think I killed your Death Dread, which I always do. It's like, I remember when you got your Death Dread and you were like, all right, turn 1, and I just wiped him off the board. I was like, oh, I see you have a new toy there. It'd be a shame if somebody shot it off the board.
It'd be a shame if you took a plasma bolt to the mouth.
And that's exactly what he did. That was when I was still playing Space Marines, which, I mean, I still could play Space Marines, and I almost kind of wish I would have, because I would have been able to interact with the game a lot more.
That is fair. Orcs, like, tactically, I felt like I had fun running so many units up on the board. Like, that was really fun. However, I did not kill as much as I wanted during this game, but I did block the Necron advance, which felt really, really good, and was really allowing my Tyrannid partner to do a lot of work with some other heavy hitters, which felt good.
Yeah, that was huge, because my knights couldn't get on any objectives, and because they're so large, they have trouble navigating around terrain. So it almost felt like turn 1, we got bogged down so bad that I basically was like, okay, well, now I have to rely on my Necron ally to get in on those objectives, and he just couldn't. There was just too many bodies.
Yeah, that was a tough time. Andrew, talk to us about brackets in a vehicle army really quick.
Yeah, I think I mentioned the term bracketing. So this is actually a term from 9th edition, but I still call it. That's what I refer it to, but each large vehicle will have a rule called wounded or damaged. Essentially, it's their bracket. It's, in 9th edition, depending on how many wounds you had, affected how good you were at shooting, how far you could move, and how tough you were, I think. It's been a long time since we played 9th edition, and those were different brackets for how wounded you were. Essentially, it was how, like, you know, hey, your tank has suffered critical damage, so instead of its regular 12-inch move, it's got a 2-inch move, etc. So with 10th edition, they've took away those brackets because a lot of these vehicles would have multiple brackets and it was hard to keep track of. Now, large vehicles just have a rule called damage. Say, hey, when you get below 8 wounds or something, you lose half your OC or your objective control. So even if you're on objectives, you have trouble holding them, and you are worse at shooting and fighting. So instead of succeeding on a dice roll of 3 or higher, you would succeed on a dice roll of 4 or higher, which a 16% nerf to your character, especially on turn 1 to your warlord, is a big deal. It basically took me out of the fight with my biggest, strongest model.
It was a big feel-bad moment. Let's go through our thoughts on co-ops, kind of pros and cons. I'm definitely not a master of the rules, so having our resident rules master there was very nice. However, I am a very impatient player. Co-op games take around 2 hours longer than they should, in my opinion. Lots of sitting around, like you said. It's fun to have those big team battles, but man, I just, like, the pacing is too slow.
For sure. There's definitely a lot of dead space when it comes to co-op armies, and you have to be cool with almost like a lot of like overlapping voices, because if both sides are not, or if both players on one side are not simultaneously attacking multiple targets at once, it takes forever. It just takes so long. But I will say on the pros side, co-op provides a good way to get support where your army lacks. Like, I only had 6 models on the field, and so being co-opted with literally anyone, I was like, okay, this is going to be easier for me to control objectives because there's just more bodies. There are some cool combos when you have 2 different teams working on the same side, and it's really interesting, like you said, to do these really epic, huge scale battles. I will say, 40k is not built for this. It would have, I think, in my opinion, be better balanced if damage was dealt simultaneously instead of, all right, one army shoots and then the other army shoots. This is actually a big downfall to 40k, in my opinion. Whereas games like X-Wing, everyone moves at the same time, and then you take turns firing based off of pilot skill. I think in the case of a co-op game, what we should have done is essentially make our own rules as far as like activations, because having 4,000 points shoot against another 4,000 points, knowing that they're not going to be able to shoot back until their turn, I'm like, that's just not balanced. Damage needs to be dealt simultaneously, I think, in these large scale things, because, and it doesn't even really make sense narratively. It's like the game is designed as if it's like the Revolutionary War, and one side lines up and it's like, ho, men, fire! And they're all using flintlock rifles. And then it's like, yes, tally-ho, good sportsmanship, sir. Thank you for being such a gentleman. Now it is our turn to return fire.
And then we alternate for the rest of the battle.
Yeah, as soon as armies stopped doing that, and they're like, what do you mean we don't act gentlemanly? They're like, yeah, we figured out if we just fire at you whenever we're ready, we kill more troops. And your lines break and you run. And then World War I happened, and they're like, oh, what if we also used chemical warfare? War is terrible. It's fun on a tabletop, though.
All right, let's pop into some game highlights really quick, and let's finish this bad boy out. Honestly, there were enough explosions for me. I think only 3 out of 12 models on the board didn't explode, which felt really awesome. Killed a lot of our units on both sides, which was great. The orcs and the Tyranids did a great job at blocking out our deployment zone and just literally encompassing the field, really using that squad cohesion to deny that second Satan shard from coming on the field until like turn 3, I think it was. And by then, we had held the objectives for too long. We had just kept those extra models off the board, and I think that was really something that helped us out.
Another highlight I wanted to point out is the Necron healing feels really OP. Necrons are just really hard to kill. They have a toughness that I would say far exceeds any other army. To be able to just regenerate wounds and regenerate entire models, like, I get it's very narrative and I think that's very cool, but it sucks to play against. It sucks the life out of you. It's like playing against a person who is running mono blue counter spells in Magic. It's like, oh, you wanted to play the game? Well, I have a card that says you can't. Like, that's how it feels. Even though I was allied with the Necrons, I was like, yeah, it's like, well, I can kind of ignore it this one time, but usually I'm against the Necrons, and I have a terrible lose record or win-loss record against Necrons. They usually beat me, but I'm not a good commander. That's probably something you could probably already figure out for yourself. I'm not good at Warhammer. Let's see. Knights are too squishy. And I know there's a new codex out now, and so they are a better value for their points. Technically, I think their toughness went down by a tick for each model across the board, which doesn't feel good, but they went down by so many points that they became less elite, because having a hyper elite army is bad. It's not great. Like, unless those guys are really tough, like frickin' Custodes are hyper elite and they're tough, they're hard to kill, that's how they should be. And Knights just don't have that. Specifically the Chaos Knights, the entire detachment that I used revolved around battle shocks. So battle shock in my case is with the knights, anything within 12 inches of a knight basically has to take a battle shock test. They're -1 to those battle shock tests, and when units get battle shooketh, I get bonuses. And then your side proceeded to never fail a battle shock test.
Yeah, that was pretty nice.
It felt terrible for me because I just couldn't do anything. Go ahead and tell us about your army and a little bit more about the orcs.
So orcs need a buff. I felt really bad because I was planning on running the Mordaka detachment, and I found out the morning of our battle that they nerfed it already, which really, really sucked. I think I have done just a bad job in keeping up on all of it, but I wish orcs were better at shooting, and I think a sustained hits 1 is not good enough to warrant only hitting on 5-ups. It's real bad.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible. I'm totally in agreement with you. The orcs are terrible at shooting, and I think they could be better. They should hit on 4s. It feels wrong that they don't.
Because they're pretty savage in close combat, but, like, again, depending on which WA detachment you're running, it just really hurts. I mean, for me, I'll save my notes for until after you talk about the NID.
The NIDs, I feel like, are very balanced and very scary.
They did a good job, at least on my side.
They usually do a good job at trouncing me, and again, partly because like I'm not a good commander, so I'm not really a good control sample, because I lose most of my games anyway. This particular NID army had I would say almost a near perfect balance of a lot of swarm units being able to bog down those objectives and having enough of those really, really strong, tough elites that when he was able to get like the winged hive tyrant into combat, it just tore the place up, and I couldn't kill the Tyrannifex. I literally shot at it every single turn and couldn't kill it.
Yeah, you kind of whiffed it.
So bad. Oh my gosh, it was terrible.
Honestly, I think what I would do differently moving into our next section, I want to field more walkers. This goes back to the top of the episode when we talked about getting proxies. I really want to buy more Killican. I don't have any Killicans, but I want to buy more Death Dread proxies. The Mordaka detachment is meant to buff infantry and walkers, and I don't have enough of either like that accurately fill out those requirements. I want to explore the range of orc shooting and eventually get away from needing my kill tank to buff my points for my lists.
And that's a perfect example of Games Workshop changing the rules for your army, and now you need different units.
Frickin' grot tanks.
Like, yeah, the grot tanks, they're just not even in the codex anymore. That feels wrong. Like,
I bought so many.
That is one of the more spineless, scummy things that Games Workshop has done.
Agreed.
And it's pretty rotten. Like, there's not really a good excuse other than, hey, if we get rid of these, people are going to have to replace like entire sections of their orc army, and they're going to have to pay us more money to do it. Because players who want to play in tournaments have to use Games Workshop approved models, or their models. There's no proxies in tournaments.
Correct. It's tough stuff. Andrew, what would you have done differently?
Other than go forward a week in time and have a new codex? No, but given that, I probably would have switched out one of my desecrators for an abominant or a rampager, so at least switch out the amount of dice that I was rolling. So the knight desecrator does so much damage, but the problem is he only rolls 3 dice. He hits on a 2-up, which is amazing, but every single time I would roll, one of them was a 1, which statistically that can happen a few times, but it happened every time. So I'm already down to 2 dice, and then using the laser desecrator, which is an incredibly strong weapon. It's got a very high strength value. So I'm wounding on 3s, sometimes even 2s, and I was still whiffing everything. It's like, I can't fix this. There are so many detachments in Warhammer that just say, get a bonus. The knights have their entire rules are get a bonus if you roll well, if your opponent is battle shocked. Which is, it's an if. Like, all of my stuff is hidden behind that if, and I couldn't get past it. It feels bad.
Oh, yeah.
Given that rolling more dice is usually better. And then re-rolling those dice is the cream of the crop. So if you guys are familiar with the Fantasy Flight Games X-Wing, my old X-Wing squadron was just Mandalorian Fang fighters, and I basically took equipment and abilities that just let me re-roll everything. And I was able to land hits all the time, and it was awesome. And I felt like I had a really good squadron of fighters. The Knights let me down, though. They just didn't. I even took abilities that had re-rolls, and I was just missing everything. And I was like, how do I do this? You can't beat the bad dice rolls. And that feels bad when a game takes 6 hours. For new fans of the IP, how would you introduce them to the 40K, and how did you start? We kind of talked about this a little bit. You probably guys know a little bit of my opinion, but let's actually start with Nathan on this one.
Honestly, Warhammer comes in so many different forms of media. I think people should take their preferred form of media and start there. I got my start in Dawn of War playing Warhammer playing Dawn of War in the RTS genre of video games. So if you're a bookworm, read some books. If you like audiobooks, all of it's there too. So like if you're love listening to this podcast and want to listen to some stories be told, if you like painting, if you like lore, if you like different video games, there's so many places to start. I highly recommend starting in an area that you're already comfortable with.
Like Games Workshop is a mini company that also has a game associated with it, and I think that's why 40K is can be not fun sometimes. To be completely honest, I would not play the miniature game if I didn't have a really solid group of friends to play with me. I would never have invested in it. Because I'm like,
Same.
well, I don't have people to play with, and I mean that's how I buy all my video games too. I'm like, awesome co-op game. Do I have someone to play with? Yes or no? So the games are great. Play Space Marine 2. It's super fun.
And with that, guys, we are going to go into a huge thanks to our patrons, Mike, Isaac, and David. Thank you guys so much for listening and joining us. Please consider giving us a 5-star review wherever you are listening. Guys, if you are inclined, please join our Patreon, either on the Jedi or the Sith. It doesn't matter. We offer a lot of benefits for only $5, including giveaways, gaming events, and generally supporting the podcast. Also, we have a pretty cool Discord server, so hop on that. This also gives you bonus content on the Patreon page, discount codes on our Etsy store, and again, we just like to goof around Discord, so join us there. Remember to like and subscribe, and until next time, the Emperor protects.